Alright, I've put it off long enough. It's the 10th episode, so we're covering One Good Cop with Michael Keaton. Get ready to cringe, people.
Hello? Popcorn delivery?
Put a little weekend in your week. Rent a video.
So if you know anything about me, it's that I like Michael Keaton. Some people diss the guy. I think he's kind of misunderstood. He's great as Beetlejuice and Batman, and if you've seen my Birdman review, which I did about a year ago, you'd know that I think he makes fun of his own career too much. It was a pretty good run, for all intents and purposes. This, however, is an awful film. It is one of the most laughable films I've ever seen. And I don't blame Keaton, I blame the director and the writer, you know, he's just the star, he's just the big name to draw the sucker in, but this should be the movie he's making fun of, not Batman. Batman's good, this is just garbage, but this is only the kind of garbage you could find on a VHS shelf back in the day, and you can tell this one was really in a VHS store. It's got this R-rated viewing sticker, you must be 17 or older to rent. It's got a previously viewed movie sticker, and it's got a 99-cent rental sticker, so 3 stickers on the front means this was pretty rented out, I guess you could say. I mean, obviously this was rented a lot, but I don't know who'd pay $4.99 for this. I certainly don't know exactly why so many people got it. Probably Michael Keaton, you know, he's on the front, he's looking at the camera like, yeah, I'm frickin' Beetlejuice, now I'm one good cop. So he's saying to the viewer essentially, oh yeah man, you're about to get one good copped. When is this from? I don't even know. 90s. Yeah. But anyway. Gosh, when is this from? The bottom is all crinkled up. Let's get some. The case is just a mess. This is probably the messiest case I've got. So what exactly is wrong with this movie? Well, the front says, they killed his partner, threatened his family. Now he'll do anything to keep them alive and remain one good cop.
One good cop.
So, from the title and the tagline, you think that he's an honest police officer dealing with a corrupt police department. And that's a really interesting concept. The only problem is Serpico did it first and did it better, and this isn't a movie about that. This is a movie about one good cop.
One good cop.
Amidst a sea of equally good cops. There are no bad cops in this movie. There's no corrupt police. Except Michael Keaton, who's like the most corrupt police officer I think I've ever seen in any movie ever. He's not a good cop. He's a really bad cop. This is just... Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm talking about this. Like, who even cares? Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. A lot of people do care. If you want a good idea of the kind of propaganda that BLM activists are fighting against in the streets right now, maybe this is an important watch. This is a film wherein the police officer has no moral compass, no moral conflict. There's less inner conflict in this about being a police officer than there is in Heat of the Night, NYPD Blue, Hill Street Blues. Heck, 21 Jump Street probably has more cop drama than this. And the quote on the back says, one distinctly different kind of cop movie from NBC Los Angeles. Yeah, I'll say it's a different kind of cop movie. There's no stakes. And Michael Keaton never feels sorry about anything he does. But, so in the first scene, they visit this, black apartment in the ghetto, and Michael Keaton and his partner harass this black family, and, this old black guy comes out across the hall, and he's like, hey, leave that family alone, and Michael Keaton's like, who are you talking to? I'm freaking Beetlejuice. And then they get into a big fight with this gang of black street thugs.
This world of crime.
Because it's all the minorities who are the villains in this movie. So then they deal with a hostage situation. I think the guy, he's holding his wife hostage. I think he's white. I think so. Maybe not. Maybe he's Hispanic. But so the main villain in the movie, they already offended every black person ever in the first scene, so they've got to offend the Hispanics too. The villain in this movie is this evil Cuban. He's got this evil Cuban accent, and he runs this evil Cuban nightclub. And Michael Keaton and his cop buddies go into this, mainly Hispanic nightclub, and they're like, hey, can we get some drinks? We want to score some babes, man. And the Hispanic guy is like, we don't want cops in here, go away. And Michael Keaton's like, yo habla español, hombre, get us those drinks, get us those babes. And he's just the biggest asshole in this movie. I don't know who watched this so much. I don't know either it's his previously viewed movie. I don't know who previously viewed this. Definitely not anyone on the left. Or, just this is such a garbage film from every direction. And I don't even think it knows how offensive it's being, but it is the most offensive movie.
Ugly Betty is the most successful Latino-based program in history.
So on the cover it says they threatened his family. He doesn't even have one, he just has a wife. So his partner dies, and he's hooked up with these 3 adorable orphans, and they're all like, Uncle Mikey, can you make us a cereal? And he's like, sure, honey, I can make you a cereal. And it's just so syrupy and, what's the word? It's just like a big bowl of honey nut breakfast cereal. Or not even honey nut. It's like Cookie Crisp, if you've ever tasted that. That's what watching this movie is like. It's the most indulgent trash. This is just exploitative schlock, and I wonder how much did they pay Michael Keaton to be in this, So, in this movie, there's one black female cop, and she's like an undercover informant. And she's trying to get inside the Hispanic guy's drug gang so she can root out the drugs. And Michael Keaton, being just the horrible policeman he is, bursts into the Cuban guy's hideout, holds his co-worker and 5 armed, Hispanic gang members at gunpoint, all this while wearing a mask, and then steals all their money and just donates it to a church. And you might be thinking this is okay, and if you think this is okay, that this is the correct way for law enforcement officers to behave, Guess what? It's not. And what I find really funny is that if he hadn't stolen the money, then his coworker, who's an undercover operative, could have found out about more drug dealers, which would have been more beneficial to society on the whole. But Michael Keaton, being the corrupt lunatic he is just like, nah, I'm gonna take this money, I'm gonna give it to this church. And in the end, spoiler alert for those of you who worry about getting spoilers for this 20-year-old movie, the church doesn't even take the money. They just give it back and say, hey, you know, we really don't want all this stolen gang money. So they don't even take it. So Michael Keaton's big adventure was all for naught because nothing gets done. Like, his vigilantism is useless.
A good cop.
So, like I said, all the minorities in this film are just huge stereotypes. It's just like, holy shit. The Cuban guys are just like, Arriba, you want them drugs, senor? And Michael Keaton is like, yeah, I'm one good cop. And it's like a cartoon. No, that's insulting to cartoons. I've seen cartoons with more nuance and subtlety than this. It's more like, if anything, this movie has a lot to do with, you know, it's a propaganda film first and foremost. It's also, you know, I'd say it has a lot in common with films like Birth of a Nation. This very, you know, offensive story defending this established injustice, disguising itself as this fun drama. You know, when Birth of a Nation came out, people thought, oh, this is just like Gone with the Wind. And, you know, Gone with the Wind's an offensive film, too, don't get me wrong. But this right here is like Birth of a Nation, but for police movies. You want Serpico? This ain't Serpico. You want, like every cop drama is more nuanced than this. This is the least interesting cop drama I've ever seen. I don't like cops, obviously. I'm a leftist, but if there's gonna be a cop drama, the least you can do is introduce a little bit of conflict, you know, in the head of your protagonist. If he's a cop, you know, and he's tasked with, you know, law enforcement, you'd think that he'd have like some hard decisions to make. In this movie, Michael Keaton never has a hard decision. He never has to evict anyone. He never has to, you know, deal with the streets. Like, there's one scene where one of his adopted daughters goes missing at a carnival, and there's a clown, and you think, oh, maybe it's the clown that did it. But nah, she just got lost somewhere. No one kidnapped her, nothing happened. And it's like, then what is that scene in for? What's that scene do? Nothing happens to the orphan, so what's the point, you know? Nothing goes on.
You've been on my life.
It's just, oh, she gets lost, and then Michael Keaton finds her, and he and his wife are like, we'll never lose you again. And it's just like, what is even going on here? It's just, I don't even know if the people trying to make this movie were trying to be offensive, or if they just didn't know how offensive they were being, or if they just didn't know how to put a cop drama together. It's not hard to do. There are plenty of them out there. Some of them are okay, like Serpico. Serpico's a good cop movie because it points out that, hey, policemen can be corrupt. Yes, they can. None of them are corrupt in this movie, like zero. Or they are all corrupt, but when they're corrupt, it's presented as like this societally beneficial thing. There's a point at which Michael Keaton goes up to the Cuban guy, and he's like, hey man, it's a service the city is providing. I'll be your personal policeman and I'll follow you around everywhere you go. And obviously this is unconstitutional, and he's not allowed to do this shit.
Mira, it wants to go to you.
But the Cuban's like, hey, I already got a bodyguard, senor. And Michael Keaton's like, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna be your personal policeman. He's a thug. Like, he isn't a good cop. Like, it's a joke. So, you know, I mean, the guy is a drug lord, but you need a warrant and shit before you can go around stalking someone. Michael Keaton doesn't give a shit. He's just like, I'm gonna be following you everywhere. Everywhere you go, I'm gonna be keeping my eyes out. Just like the most invasion of privacy I think I've ever seen. My God, this film is a joke. So then, in the end, in the fiery climax, as the description puts it, Michael Keaton, Batman, obviously, delivers a critically acclaimed performance as Artie Lewis, an honest and dedicated police detective in this suspenseful, action-filled movie. Yeah, it sounds like the back cover of like a Spanish, like, I took like first level Spanish in high school. This is what this description reminds me of. It's this suspenseful, action-filled movie. I remember the same thing about freaking, whatchamacallit, Brandon Brown. Yeah, it's like the back description of one of those. Keaton becomes the legal guardian of 3 orphaned girls when his partner, Anthony LaPaglia, is killed in a drug raid. During his investigation of the vicious drug ring responsible, Keaton finds his life and that of his family on the line. He's determined to protect them at all costs, and in a fiery climax, he learns what it takes to be one good cop.
One good cop.
So he's not even determined to keep his family. In one scene, he says to his wife, hey, why don't we just give our 3 orphan daughters up to a foster family? They could do a better job. We weren't ready for kids. So he doesn't even really give a shit about them. He doesn't have his family in mind. I don't even remember a scene where, like, the family is terrorized in any way. I think the Cuban makes, like, one comment at one point about, like, hey, hombre, you've got a wife and kids? And Michael Keaton is like, oh, shit, they're gonna kill my wife and kids. I better frickin' kill them first.
He's fair, some low-life dirtbag. Has millions of dollars when other people can't put a roof over their heads.
Just the most saccharine, that's the word I was looking for, saccharine bullshit. So in the final scene, Michael Keaton invades the drug lord's hideout, and they waterboard him. So then he takes this guy and just like drowns him. No handcuffs for one good cop.
One good cop.
No legal custody. He's judge, jury, and executioner. He takes this guy, submerges his face in water, and just holds him there until he's dead. So then the Cuban guy comes out with this machine gun and he's like, Senor, you have angered me, prepare to die. And Michael Keaton is like, he ain't having any of that. So he takes his sword, this giant Spanish machete off the, or it's more like a fencing sword off the apartment, and he aims it at the guy and just skewers him like a shish kebab. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. And so after he kills this guy with his sword, and this guy is going around like, I think he's supposed to be like, you know, like Al Pacino and Scarface with the machine gun, but less cool, and the bullet effects are like obviously blinks, and like, they didn't even have good fight choreography in this. It's just stumbling around, knocking into shit. Hey, hombre, say hi to my little friend. And so Michael Keaton kills all these guys, and then in the very end we learn that the church didn't take his money. Obviously, even churches have their limits. You're not gonna take stolen drug money, Michael Keaton. What the shit were you thinking? But not only that, but get this. Michael Keaton's chief says, I lost your partner, and he was a good cop.
We lost a good man.
A good cop.
I don't want to lose you because you're also a good cop.
One good cop.
So he doesn't even get fired or face jail time or anything. Doesn't even get his salary lowered probably. He just keeps on working. Artie Lewis, one good cop. He killed like 5 people without a warrant or anything, but he's protected because he's a cop, man.
A good cop.
He threatened this Hispanic guy who, you know, from the looks of it, I mean, he is a drug lord, but his nightclub looks like a nice business. This might be a good movie if, like, instead of punching all these stereotypical African-American thugs in the first scene, Michael Keaton handed out popsicles to black children. Then I'd think, wow, this is one good cop.
One good cop.
This is, you know, most cops are pigs, but this guy, he's one good cop.
A good cop.
You know, the movie should make me like him. And then maybe once he gets to the Cuban guy, like imagine this, right? Instead of killing him and all his friends, he says, hey, you know, you shouldn't be selling these drugs, and you might have to go to prison for 5 years or something, but in the meantime, why don't I run your nightclub for you? Like, that'd be so swell. And then the Cuban guy gets out 5 years later, and he and Keaton are old friends, and he's like, here's your nightclub, because that's a legal establishment. And Michael Keaton helps reform this Cuban drug lord into this, suave nightclub owner, and he's like Desi Arnaz, and it's just, a fun, a good movie. But this isn't that. This isn't one good cop. This is one painfully mediocre cop. One cop that should definitely be fired. A cop that doesn't deserve to keep his job. But, yeah. I don't know how they managed to make Michael Keaton so hateable, so angry, and he's just a bastard in this movie. Like, this almost ruined Michael Keaton for me. Like, he's Beetlejuice, I like Beetlejuice. I like Batman. He's the best Batman. Batman's a weird vigilante, but, he tries to be a vigilante in this movie, but it just doesn't work, because he's a cop and he has to remain within the boundaries of the law. And Batman doesn't kill people, he doesn't drown people, he doesn't run them through with swords, he just musses them up a little and scares them. But the death count for Artie Lewis, pro-cop, is like 7. Probably more, and he keeps his job at the end. I don't know what they were going for here. This is the worst cop movie, hands down. So, this is the first movie in the series. I'm rating 2 stars. I'm not rating it 1 because Michael Keaton, and it's a better movie than Birdman. At least it's a movie. Birdman isn't even a movie, but this isn't the kind of movie you'll want to watch with your black friends. This isn't the kind of movie you want to watch, if you want to be taken seriously in anything about social policy, and I mean, if you're black, you might want to watch this movie and see what kind of crap was chopped out in the 90s, but, you know, other than that, you know, this is an important movie historically because it is exactly the kind of cop drama that, you know, BLM marches are talking about and rallying against. Good for them. This movie is trash. But yeah, 2 stars. I'd give it 1 star, but I don't know. I just don't blame Michael Keaton. He tries his best, but he's not given enough to make it a 3-star movie.
Hi, Uncle Artie.
Daddy had an accident.
I want my dad.
I should give it 1 star, but I have another movie upcoming in the series I'm thinking about giving 1 star, and I only really want to save 1 star for the absolute bottom of the barrel, but yeah, there's One Good Cop.
One good cop.
A positive of the movie. I gotta think of one if I'm gonna give this 2 stars. I guess in some scenes the lighting is okay. Like there's one scene in this rat-infested garage, and it looks kind of like Dick Tracy, sorta, kinda. It's got like blue spotlights. That was kind of neat, but other than that, this movie is, yeah, it's a piece of trash, and it's absolutely the sort of broken garbage that would only get a VHS release, straight to VHS. I don't know if this was given a theatrical release. If it was, God help whoever saw this on the big screen had to sit through 2 hours of this drivel. Alright, so that said, that's been a VHS Crazy review. If you liked it, then thumbs up and sub and whatever else you want. If you don't want to, you don't gotta, but I'd prefer if you did, because I got more fresh content down the way. And if you'd like to support these reviews, then write to Nicholas Gator, 1424 Columbine Street, number 1, Denver, Colorado, 80206, and I will see you in the next VHS Crazy installment.